So hello, replay viewers on Periscope. Hello, everyone on YouTube. We are now all set up. We are getting started. Day 3. Whew. How's everybody doing? I would love to do, let's do a quick account. Well, first, if you're watching this live stream and you don't know who I am, hey everyone, I'm Brett Larkin from BrettLarkinYoga on YouTube. We are in the midst of our Detox challenge. So we are doing our spring detox challenge. You can join at BrettLarkin.com/8-day detox. You can click the little Perry link in my bio, swipe right, and join up right there. We are doing yoga every day for 8 days in a row. We are cleansing body, mind, spirit, soul. Alex, thanks for sharing. If you're on Periscope, you can tap the screen for hearts. And Facebook and Periscope, it would be great if you shared this out. So let people know that we're live right now. Help me spread the word. And I'm hoping to get and answer questions today, just like every day. Jen Hall says she's watching this live stream while in pigeon pose. That makes me so happy. That's like the epitome of what we're trying to do here, guys. And I just realized I didn't even have my lights on. Oh, my goodness. Okay. So day 3 is all about the hips. Day 4 is also going to be a continuation of the hips. And yes, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Periscope. It's all going on at the same time as per usual. Awesome. I'm hearing people like day 3. Good. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about, I kind of prepped a little kind of like bonus info session for you here about, and I'm just seeing, you didn't hurt this morning and you felt like you did something wrong, Shannon? Say more about that. I don't understand. Oh, your abs didn't hurt. My abs hurt today. Okay, so wait, first we need to do our accountability check. Awesome, Selena, I'm glad you're excited for tomorrow. And guys, people are mentioning the group here. If you're not a member of our private Facebook group and you're super into yoga and are excited about the challenge and want to connect with the most amazing group of yogis on the web, you want to join us at yogahackscommunity.com. That's yoga, HACKS community.com. Is going to redirect you to our Facebook group where all the action is happening. Okay, so first, accountability check-in, 1 in the chat, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you are. Give me the number 1 in the chat. If you did day 3, you finished today's challenge. You can also put a 1 if you're like on board to complete it tonight. That also works. And thanks, Shannon, for putting Yoga Hacks Community, Yoga HACKS community in the chat box for people who want to join. And we don't bite. We don't bite in the group. We're the nicest people. Okay, everyone put 1. Awesome. 1 tonight. Okay, great. Okay, so next accountability check-in. There you are on Facebook, Georgiana. Awesome. Facebook's always, people are like afraid to put in the chat box. I know we have people watching, so feel free to chat me your questions or give me like a hi or anything. 1, you did it twice. Awesome. Awesome. So good. And people are saying they love the Facebook group. Guys, that makes me so happy. Thank you. It's because of you. It's because the community is amazing in there. Okay, so accountability check-in looks good for day 3. We're all still on board. So now I want to hear whose abs feel sore from yesterday. So give me a 1 if your abs feel sore from yesterday's core workout, and 2 if you don't feel anything. It's fine either way. It's just interesting to take a poll and see where we're all at, because I know Shannon said she wasn't really feeling anything. A lot of people say they're not feeling it too bad. 1.5, 1, not as much as you were expecting. Good. Okay, I definitely feel it. I think it might be because I did the ab series twice, because I then decided to teach it live in a class later in the day, because I had just done it in the morning. So I did 2 rounds. So maybe that's why I'm a little extra sore. Cool. And how many of you were able to do it with the block squeezing between your legs? Because I think that makes a big difference too. If you don't have a block, maybe you could use the Yogi Surprise box if you guys have signed up for Yogi Surprise. And guys, if you have any questions about Yogi Surprise and their whole like box delivery system, feel free to ask me in the chat, like totally transparent. I can tell you kind of what my experience has been with getting the boxes. They have 2 different boxes, which can be a little confusing. They have like a lifestyle box and then a jewelry box. So if anyone's interested, you can ask me questions about anything as always, but also that. Yeah, and you liked having the block squeezing between the thighs. It really helps activate the core, right? Okay, cool. So the topic I wanted to prep for today to give you some insider info on sort of the hips. And I think there's like this thing that we hear a lot in yoga, that you store emotions in your hips. Who's heard a yoga teacher say that? has heard of this concept that like you keep emotions in your hips and that whole kind of thing. Give me a 1 in the chat or just say yes if you've heard of that, because it's definitely, I think it's just like one of these like yoga rumors that's going around, right? Like we store emotions in our hips and everything. So I think this is definitely true. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of insider info or kind of my take on why this might be. Because of course you can look at it from an energetic perspective, like you know, like through the chakra system and everything. But there's actually another explanation that I came across recently that I really liked for why we quote unquote store emotions in our hips and why our hips might be so tight. So do you guys, do you want to kind of hear what I recently found out, my little insider sort of spiel or info about this? Cool. Okay, I'm getting yeses. Awesome. So what I recently came across, and I thought this was really interesting, and I love it when we can take it back because I love like chakra system, subtle body energy stuff. I think that's great. But at the end of the day, I'm also like very practical, and I really like to know the science behind things as well as like the kind of more esoteric, spiritual Yoga Sutra philosophy. I love both. So I think it's great that, you know, we hear like the root chakra and like, you know, all our emotions about like fear and abandonment as a child and all this stuff. It's like stored in our hips because that's all like first chakra issues. I love that. But I also like to know the science as well. And that's kind of my favorite place to play is when we're blending the two together. So what I wanted to share on the science side about your hips being tight that I recently came across and found out and I thought was really interesting, cool, was that, oh, someone said they love today's routine. Awesome. Thanks for letting me know. Is that when we were, and I love it when we can take it back to caveman days, right? Like like original humans. And because at the end of the day, we live in modern society now and we've evolved so much, but we're still animals, right? And animals have 3 main modes, right? There's like fight, flight, sorry, there's someone help me out in the chat box here, but there's like flight mode, fight mode, and then there's like stay still and like play dead mode, I think, basically in the animal kingdom. Like if a predator is coming, you either like freeze, that's what it is, freeze. You freeze and like play dead, like you try to blend in with the environment. You fight them, like you're like, I'm gonna attack the predator and it becomes like a battle, or you flee, you run away, right? So those are kind of like the 3 modes we have. And someone just said they're doing homework on that and listening to the chat. Cool, you must be doing a teacher training or something. Are you doing a teacher training, the person who asked that? Let me know. So when we think of it in these 3 modes, and yeah, definitely tap the screen for hearts if you kind of like thinking about this way, is that how do we, when we run or when we flee or when we fight, what does that look like? Oh, you're in, got it. What that looks like is like, if we flee, what do? We run. What do we use when we run? Like we are IT bands, right? Like these stabilizer muscles, our hips that help us like run and walk away. What if, yeah, our legs, exactly, Shannon, our legs. What about when we fight? Like say we were gonna, I'm gonna show you guys my foot, right? Like we might kick to fight, right? That's also kind of like legs, hips. So what was interesting and cool here is that like the hips are actually really an essential part of the fight or flight mechanism that we have as animals, because in order to flee or in order to fight, like you kind of need to be able to stable, you know, your hips and the IT bands, right? They're stabilizing your whole body. If you're standing, they kind of like need to get you going so you can kickbox, exactly, or so you can run. And what happens is, as we're, you know, now modern humans, not caveman humans, but little stressors, we still have that. The IT band, Shannon, is the muscle that runs along the side of the leg right here, right? They call this the IT band. Like it's one of the hip has so many different components, but it's like the big stabilizer, like stabilizes how you walk, and it's what's always really tight for runners, right? So, because runners tend to have really tight IT bands, tight hips. So I thought it was just really cool and we could tie it back to, and yeah, foam rolling is really good for your hips and your IT bands. But I thought it was really cool when we could tie it back to the science, which is really that when we fight or flight, our hips are like one of the biggest muscles helping that action happen, to kick or run. So when we are now in modern times and we have mild stressors like our phone constantly beeping or something at work that's stressing us out, this is what modern stress is that we're in a constant micro state of fight or flight, even though there's not real danger, right? Like a lion is not attacking us, a bear is not attacking us, but the hormones and the triggers going on in our body are the same when we're like overworked, or we have like a really stressful meeting coming up, or something really scary or something that's bothering us is about to happen. We still have the same chemical reaction as if we were being attacked by a bear, except we're not being attacked by a bear. And what that can mean is that the hips subtly tighten up. So if you're wondering like why your hips are so tight, it's probably because maybe you're stressed. It's also because you sit a lot potentially, right? Sitting is really not good for the hips. And hey, Gaza on YouTube, nice to see you. Give you a wave. Cool. So yeah, it's pretty much like stress and sitting is what's giving us all tight hips. So was that like a fun little anecdote? I thought that was kind of cool. And I think totally, Iris, you're right. Something similar happens to our shoulders and neck, because like if say someone like jumped out of the camera right now and surprised me, what's the first thing I would do? I'd go, right? Okay, what just happened in order for me to go, okay, my shoulders crept up, my hips like came towards each other so I could jump out of the chair, right? So like just at that basic level, right? We just saw that happen, right? Like if I were scared, my shoulders would raise and I would start to move, and in order to move, I need to engage the hips, pelvis, like need to suck together. So yeah, 100%. It's the same with the shoulders, and just in life, like even though we're not being attacked, we're just like subtly stressed and we don't notice it. That's the thing. It's micro, so we don't notice it, but it's happening that we're subtly tensing the shoulders. We're suddenly like subtly tensing our hips because we're in a state of stress. We're in that like fight or flight mode at like 5% or whatever. So we can see the woolly mammoth in our hips and get us out of there. Exactly. So, and Jen Hall says she's now sitting in Gomukhasana. Awesome. So guys, sit in hip openers while you listen to Periscope or watch on YouTube. And one of the students in my class last night, she's really awesome, and she comes to my advanced Tuesday nights class that I teach in person. And I had an interesting conversation with her last night that I'll share with you guys as well, because she has a very strong practice. I'm sure like many of you, yeah, give me some hearts, tap the screen for hearts, give me some love and say hi on Facebook, keep the engagement going here, and put any questions in the chat, you guys, so I can address them. But she has a very strong practice. She's very, like good, well-rounded practice. And I did a lot of hip openers last night in class, but her hips are crazy tight, like compared to the rest of her body, which is like very flexible. She's really a strong student. Her hips are crazy tight. And, that's someone asked what's a good snack to have after practice. That's a great question. You know what? I really like bananas. I really like healthy, if there's a healthy bar that you like, people have been suggesting in the Facebook group a lot of healthy oat bars, but I think bananas are great. An apple is really great. Like any fruit or light snack is really good. So yeah, exactly. You contract, and we'll go over the fire breathing, Shannon. That's a great idea. So let me just finish this. And apples and peanut butter, kale smoothie, any kind of smoothie is great to have after you practice yoga. But what I told her with the hips is, this is my big message for all of you about the hips, and then we'll go over the breath of fire, and then we'll call it a day. Guys, the hips take a really long time to open. All muscles and all the fascia need really 3 to 5 minutes, which is so, and so Lucy, hey Lucy, said she did pigeon today and she could hardly do the twist. That's fine. Right? You can stay in regular pigeon, and I think I say that in the class. You can stay in regular pigeon, or you can do that variation where I did the cool twisty thing. But you don't have to. It's just taking it a step further because I'm prepping us for like tomorrow's peak pose with that. So no worries if you can't do the twist. You'll get there, right? It's a process. But what I told this student about who had really tight hips, and if this helps any of you, that in order for our hips to, I know it feels good, right? If you can do it. In order for the hips to release, it needs a really long time. It needs like 3 to 5 minutes of doing pigeon. And in a typical yoga class, like we were not able to do it for that long. We can't hold it for that long. That's why it's so important to complement vinyasa yoga with yin yoga, or do what I call my stretching hacks, my yoga hacks, which is the equivalent of sitting in pigeon while you're watching this Periscope, or sitting in pigeon while you're watching TV. And someone just asked, do I drink water during my practice? I'll ask that. So guys, I'd really encourage you to try to sit in pigeon, or try to sit in the hip stretch that we do on our back, or try to use a strap to open up your hips and IT band. And I have a class on that. I don't know if it's public yet or not, but the hips really need a long time. So if you really want to see progress in your hip flexibility, pigeon does get easier. You need to start doing it off the mat. What I call, like, just doing hip stretches in yoga class is not enough if you really want to make progress. You need to be doing hip stretches like while you're watching a movie, while you're sitting talking on the phone, like any time that you think you can get down on the floor and be in pigeon, or be on your back and doing the ankle to knee stretch, or doing it at the wall. Again, I have a whole course on this, you guys, if you want to check it out at alwaysbestretching.com, always be stretching. But you need to be stretching the hips all the time, because they take so long to open. Okay, so the same question came up on Periscope and from Maria on YouTube, asking about if your leg is parallel to the mat and if that matters with pigeon. So I have a YouTube video on this. When I cover my knees and shins come off the floor and I push down on my feet, is that normal? Should you warm up before you do pigeon off the mat? Okay, these are all great questions, you guys. So let me start with the shin being parallel to the front of the mat, because at least 2 people asked that. And yeah, someone just said they can't do pigeon yet and they're doing pigeon on your back. Guys, it's the same pose. One's just more intense. So like, zero judgment against yourself here if you're doing pigeon on your back instead of normal pigeon, okay? It's not a big deal. It's the same pose. Just be with where you're at. Do what feels good for you. And in terms of your shin being parallel to the front of the mat, I do have a YouTube video on this, and I can link it up in the Facebook group right after this chat. But basically, if your shin is parallel to the mat, right, we're talking about our shin in pigeon, right? If your shin is parallel to the mat, the stretch is going to be more intense. If your shin is closer in towards you, so if the camera is the mat, right? So instead of like this, if it's a little bit more in, that's just going to make the hip stretch less intense. It's not wrong. It's just, think of it as like this magic lever, right? You can choose. Like, I can definitely do pigeon with my shin parallel to the mat, but on days when I'm really tight, I start with it a little less parallel to the mat, and that's fine too. And I work, over time as I adjust, I get it parallel. So if you see me doing it parallel in the videos, that's because, again, like technically with fancy, proper Iyengar level yoga, that's where you want to get to. But it's like this lever that you can adjust, and you can have the shin be closer in if that feels better for you. It's not wrong. What is a problem is if you really want to flex the foot. And I do have a video on hip placement for pigeon pose and everything. I'll put that video at the top of the private Facebook group, yogahackscommunity.com, you guys, yogahackscommunity.com, and I will link that video up in the top of the Facebook group after this live chat. Okay, so everyone can see what we're referencing and see what we're talking about. It's normal if your foot falls asleep. You're not doing anything wrong. And yeah, you can also type how to do pigeon pose and Brett Larkin in Google or whatever, and you'll find that video, but I'll link it at the top. So, but what I do want you guys to do, regardless of where you have the shin, is fine, right? There's all these different places you can be, but I want you to have the foot flexed. That's like the non-negotiable, okay? Where your shin is on the mat is like negotiable, right? You can work to having it parallel. You can have it a little bit more in. You can also put blocks under your hip in pigeon to make it easier if you're doing pigeon the traditional way, not on your back, but lying forward. You can do blocks. And Maria asked, should I use 2 blocks to raise my hips on the pigeon so I can lower the other hip, as you say in the video? Yeah, usually when you do pigeon with a block, you just have one block. Where are my blocks? One block under the hip that's in pigeon. So if my shin is parallel to the mat like this, or my shin's here, I'd have the block here. So I wouldn't have it on the other side. I'd have it on the side with that I'm doing pigeon on. The hip that's getting the stretch, if that makes sense. And you can do that. And then that should make it a little bit easier. But you can always just also do pigeon on your back. And guys, remember, you can get blocks on my website if you want to support me and my channel and give like a donation. I ship you 2 yoga blocks. It's still a great price. It's free shipping. So check that out, BrettLarkin.com, if you want the exact blocks that I use and like. And yeah, you can also use a blanket, and even great call, Jen Hall. And what I would do if I were you is that I would do a block. Oh, thanks, Shannon. I'd do a block, and then I'd put a blanket on top. So Jen said you can use a blanket. So if you don't need the whole block height, you could just use a blanket. And then you can put the blanket on top. So it's like extra cushy. So Maria's saying, if we understand your video correctly, we should prioritize having both hips level. You want to have both hips square to the front of the mat. And then for most people, the hip that's not in pigeon, like the hip that's not in with the shin forward, will be higher. So you want to work on getting that down, but that will come over time, if that makes sense. So yeah, put a blanket on top of the block if you're using a block in pigeon, because it'll just make it more comfortable. Like, who wants to be on a hard block if you don't have to be? And someone just said they like to rest their forehead on a block on pigeon as well. It's a great idea. That's why you want to have 2 blocks always. Do you have any ways that you can open your hips while sitting at a desk? Yes, I have a video on that. That's also part of my Always Be Stretching course. If you go to alwaysbestretching.com, I have like all these videos about how you can stretch at a desk. And I will also put the desk stretching, desk yoga routine little video at the top of the private Facebook group, yogahackscommunity.com, as a reference for all this stuff. And guys, definitely check out my Always Be Stretching course if you're like interested in hacking yoga into every moment of your daily life, because that's what I do and it really makes a difference. So just go to alwaysbestretching.com. I'll also link that up in the Facebook group, and I have a discount code for it for anyone who's in the Facebook group. So whatever public price you see, that's not what you should pay if you're like part of my community. So I'll make sure to also put the discount code in the group. Okay, so I think there was another question, and foot flex. Sorry, that's what I want to keep iterating. The foot has to be flexed. Wherever your shin is in pigeon is fine, but the foot has to be flexed. That protects the knee joint. Breath of fire, Marcia, thank you. That was the last thing we were going to talk about. Going over the breath of fire. She says, I feel a soft tingling vibration in my mouth and nasal passages. Is that normal? Yeah, I think, you know, a tingling is normal. Extreme pain is bad. Feeling a tingling, I think, is totally normal, right? There's a lot of subtle body energy stuff going on. So what questions do people have about the breath of fire? Put them in, because that's what we're going to address now for the remainder of the live chat. And I can show it to you guys again. I know some questions I've been getting on, you know, the Facebook group is like people being worried about not doing it right. Yes, I know there was a Cobra question. I just didn't understand it. So put it back in for me, or if you're on YouTube or Facebook, put it in the chat there so I can see it better. So I'd say doing breath of fire, you want to build up. Someone said how long to do it before meditating. You know, start with a minute, and you could do it up to 3 minutes. And then maybe, you know, some people do it even more than that. But I'd say you want to do it, think of it as in rounds, like reps. So you could do it for a minute, rest, do it again for a minute, and do like 3 1-minute rounds, or 3 3-minute rounds, and then meditate. You can work up over time. I think we did that on day 2, where we did several rounds instead of just 1 round of breath of fire. So the inhale is passive in breath of fire. Okay, so put it on the Facebook page later, please do. The inhale is passive in breath of fire. So meaning you just don't inhale, you just exhale. And it's like kind of like you're hyperventilating, but it's controlled. And Selena says she keeps having to, yeah, blow her nose. Yes, it is totally normal, especially like allergy season where I live. Lots of snot can come out your nose when you do breath of fire. And that's, again, detoxifying, cleansing. These past couple of days, I haven't had to take my allergy medicine as much because breath of fire is just doing it for me. So it's definitely normal. If you have tons of mucus and stuff coming out of your nose, that's normal. Just have a Kleenex nearby. And what do you do when you get out of breath? So it's a good question. So if you're feeling like you're hyperventilating, you like it doesn't feel good, you want to stop, but you shouldn't feel out of breath. Like when breath of fire was taught to me and how it's taught is that the inhale is passive, meaning that even though you're snapping the navel back and just focusing on sharply exhaling through your nose, you still are, the inhale is happening. You're just not as aware of it. Like, so when we exhale, we are out of air and we need to inhale again. Yeah, Jen saying like Adrienne on YouTube apparently has a tutorial video that's, I haven't watched it, but maybe she, like, because she did a whole video on it, maybe she was able to go into a lot more detail. But just think of like expelling, everyone try it with me right now, okay? Just think of expelling air through your nose while pumping your navel back, okay? Like when somehow you end up, you're still inhaling, but it's just really short and really passive because you're just focused on the exhale. So you can put your hand on your belly, everyone, if you want to try it, and feel your navel snap back into your spine. And then imagine there's like a piece of paper under your nose and you want the piece of paper to fly away from you, right? So it's so your navel snapping back into your spine every time, and then but it releases. So it snaps back and releases. The navel snap backs and releases, snaps back and releases. So there is an inhale that's happening. It's just passive and subtle. And you as the practitioner, you're just focusing on the exhale, the exhale, the exhale. And Maria says, what exactly do you do with your belly? So you want your navel to snap back into your spine, right? So it's like, you guys aren't going to be able to see it, but if you rewatch the videos, the camera does do a close-up, and it's something you just need to get used to. Like someone just said, they didn't get it on day 1, but then they got it on day 2, right? It's not like, I mean, I wish there was like a magical thing I could say to you to make you get it, but you just need to keep trying it. Just keep trying it and you will get it. Think about finding that rhythm. Just sharp exhales through the nose, pumping the navel back. So think of your navel pulling back, your navel snapping back in sync with exhaling sharply through the nose. Is this helpful? Is people trying it? Are you getting it? Give me some feedback. Georgiana says, does this type of breath add pressure in the eyes? It shouldn't. It's supposed to be super detoxifying and just get tons of fresh oxygen into all the blood cells and into your whole system. Okay, Iris says she totally gets it now. Great. Does anyone else have questions that I can say to clarify to help people? Some people seem like they're getting it. And Marcia says that helps. Good. Okay. And raising the arms, I talked about this a little bit yesterday. Great question. You raise the arms because according to Kundalini Yoga, there is the big chakras that we know about up and down the spine, but there are also baby mini chakra energy centers. By chakra, I mean subtle body energy centers like meridian lines and whatnot. In here on your elbow, all along the arm as well. So the science of Kundalini Yoga wants you to activate these energy centers along the arms, and that's why your arms are up. And then let's talk a little bit just quickly about when the breath ends, right? You want to retain the breath. So you bring the thumbs to touch above the head, right? And the arm, it's toning the arms to have them up. So that's a bonus. You bring the thumbs to touch above the head. And then what you do is you pull your groin up and in, you pull your navel up and in. So just like this, the navel's been snapping back the whole time. Like imagine holding your breath and sucking in your navel, right? Suck up and in, suck up and in. It's like your navel's like flying up under your rib cage. Your navel is flying up under your rib cage and you're holding it up, holding the breath in, dipping the chin. You're like holding all the energy in, and then you exhale and release right at the end of the breath. And that feels good. Oh, thanks, Shannon. That's nice of you to say. So again, you don't want to hold the breath. Like if you start to feel dizzy or nauseous, or if you're pregnant, don't do this breath at all, right? Exactly. Jen knows it's the Bandha locks. But, you know, you just retain the breath for as long as you can, and then you release, okay? So breath of fire will get easier. It's weird. It's not a natural thing to do. So just go easy, guys. Know that you're going to get it. By the time we get to day 7, where we're doing breath of fire constantly, you'll really have it. And if anyone wants to put a video of themselves doing breath of fire on our private Facebook group, I will look at the video and I will give you feedback, okay? So if someone's really worried they're not doing it right, or really concerned about it, post a video. We're a private group. Everyone in there is nice and supportive. You have nothing to worry about. There's no haters in the group. And if haters come in the group, we kick them out immediately. That's the joy of being a private group. And I'm happy to look at any videos of you guys doing breath of fire, because you really want to nail this before day 7, because day 7 we're doing a lot of breath of fire, okay? But just think, exhaling through the nose and navel pulling back at the same time. And see, after I exhale, there's a little passive inhale, right? Where I like inhale a little bit before I snap again. So it's not like it's not like you don't breathe, right? We breathe. It's just passive. You're just not focused on the inhale. You're just focused on the exhale. It's important not to produce a wrinkle face while doing breath of fire. I learned to close the eyes and make a sour face during the exhale. Is that correct? So I've never been taught that you're supposed to wrinkle the face or not wrinkle the face, Patricia. It's a great question. I think you want to keep the face relaxed, because of course, if we tense up or we start bringing the eyebrows towards one another, those are all like symptoms of stress, and could evoke a chemical stress response that we don't intentionally mean to. But in terms of making a certain face during the exhale, I don't know. I can look into it, Patricia, but I haven't heard anything about that. I just try to keep my gaze relaxed, and I try to, if I think about anything, I think of focusing on the space between my eyebrows, my third eye. Okay, so I think there was a question in Periscope at the end there that I might have missed. So if that was you who just typed that in, yeah, Jen, like, yeah, I think you're supposed to have your face relaxed would be my guess. And yeah, the breath of fire is not supposed to be fun while you're doing it, but as Marcia just said in YouTube, you feel super relaxed after, right? So you're going for how you're going to feel after. And if you say your body jumps during the breathing, Shannon said, like, yeah, because if you're doing it really strong, I get what you're saying. I think what you mean by jumps is like you're really pumping the belly, so it feels like a little hop. Yeah, exactly. That's good. That's correct. That means you're doing the breath in a very strong way. And you should, if you're doing it that hard, feel your abs the next day, hopefully. Invigorating. Great word. Great word. It's definitely invigorating. And great question here from Marcia. Should you prioritize intensity or speed? So breath of fire is like one of those super personal things. Everybody does it a little bit differently, okay? And you need to find the way that works for you in terms of speed and intensity. So I speed, because what I'm really interested in with breath of fire and all these exercises is doing them right to get the full physical benefit of the posture. So I would rather really fully snap my navel back and have a really strong exhale and really feel that and do it slow than rush through it and just kind of be like dancing my belly all around, and it's like not really doing anything. So you can definitely do it slow, like maybe that feels better for you. I like to be somewhere in between fast and slow, but I do go to Kundalini yoga class and I'll have someone sitting next to me and they're like crazy fast. They're like, right? What I found is when you just do it really fast, it just stays in your nose. Did you see how that just happened? It just becomes like a nose thing. And we really want it to be a navel thing, right? So I find if I go slower, I can really get my belly and my navel involved. And that's more what I'm going for, because otherwise it's not really the full benefit, because you're just like doing some weird thing in your nose, right? So if you can go fast and you're really snapping the navel back into the spine each time, awesome. But I'd rather you go slower and really try to feel that connection. And if you want to do a round where you have only one arm up and you keep your hand on your belly so you can feel the belly snap back, and then do it, vice versa for the next round, that's also an option. Okay, and she says she can feel the difference. Cool. Cool. Yeah, next time I'll do a Breath of Fire tutorial, like video only, before I do more Breath of Fire stuff. But it seems like you guys are all getting it. You're all working through it. It is a process to find it. And the good news is, even if I made a tutorial video, I don't think I could have ever done, like, answered as many specific questions as you guys had. This is what's really awesome about doing it live, is because often for us, especially as teachers, like we just forget all the questions that people have at the beginning. So that's why it's really awesome when we can all get on in live chat. So helpful for me as well to like even that question about prioritizing intensity or speed, like that's something I might not have even thought of to talk a lot about in a tutorial video that I made. So that's why it's really awesome that we're able to do this together. Oh, thank you, Maria on YouTube. She just said she really enjoys my teaching in the classes. Thank you. Namaste. I really appreciate you being here and tuning in live. It means so much. And Georgiana says she definitely feels her abs stronger due to the breath. Awesome. Cool, you guys. So that wraps up day 3. So I want you all to be ready for day 4. We're continuing with the hips in day 4. We're going to take everything we did in day 3 a little bit further into the peak pose of either mermaid or king pigeon. Love you guys. Love you so much. And tomorrow we can also talk about twists as well. It's so kind of like day 3 and 4 is really about hips, and then day 5 and 6 we go way deep into twists again. And then day 7 is our special day, and then day 8 is like really fun and just feel good. And tomorrow, just a tip for you guys tomorrow, please do not be discouraged. Please do not be upset if you don't make it all the way into either mermaid or king pigeon, which are the 2 peak poses we're going for, right? Remember, this is just about fun. It's about the journey. You're going to open your hips in the class regardless of how far you go, like whether you go into the peak pose or not is really irrelevant. You're going to stretch the hips no matter what. And you're so welcome, Carmel on Facebook. So guys, no pressure on yourselves tomorrow about getting to the peak pose or not. Just have fun, and we'll all recap, regroup then, okay? Heart it up for our final moments together on Periscope. As always, you guys, thank you so much for being here live. It's really, really fun for the community, for us to get to do this together. And I will talk to you all tomorrow. You are amazing.